They didn't find you by accident. No one just happens to show up with kindness, attention, or affection without some calculation, spoken or silent, guiding the connection. It might be subtle, dressed in warmth and laughter, or it might be obvious, wrapped in compliments and favors. But behind every smile, behind every "I'm here for you," lies a quiet question. What do I get in return? In this world, affection is rarely free. It is often a soft-spoken negotiation, a trade of needs camouflaged as sincerity. We're taught to believe people love us for who we are, that friendships bloom from shared moments, that loyalty is unconditional. But that belief collapses the moment you stop giving. When you're no longer funny, useful, available, or emotionally stable, watch how quickly people disappear. They don't leave because you changed. They leave because what you gave them changed. Your value shifted, and so did their loyalty. This isn't cynicism, it's clarity. It's the understanding that every human interaction carries a cost and a currency. Maybe it's your time. Maybe it's your energy, your empathy, your access, your silence. But if you don't recognize the transaction, you're not in control of it, you're already being used. That's not bitterness, that's self-preservation. And yet most people live in denial of this reality. They think they're loved because they're lovable. But love, even the purest kind, often begins with benefit, companionship, security, status, relief. People gravitate toward value, and once that perceived value fades, so does the attention. That's not cruelty, it's human design, it's survival. So the question is not, why did they change? The better question is, what did I offer that stopped being convenient? Until you can answer that, you will continue to mistake exploitation for love. And you will continue to bleed emotionally, mentally, sometimes financially, for people who only showed up to collect, not to contribute. In a world that runs on unspoken contracts, your only protection is awareness. Because while love speaks in poetry, survival whispers in numbers. And when the emotional math doesn't add up, it's not a relationship. It's a transaction. The tragedy is thinking it's anything else. There's a quiet kind of tragedy that unfolds in the lives of good people. The ones who give without asking, who show up without being called who. Offer themselves as emotional anchors, thinking love alone will protect them. But love doesn't protect the unaware. In a world where every connection is an exchange, not knowing your own value makes you an open wallet, a bottomless well, a tool in someone else's survival plan. And the worst part, you might even thank them for taking from you. People don't always want your money. Sometimes they want your silence, your ability to listen without judgment. Sometimes they crave your emotional support, your stability, your constant availability. They want you to be the fallback, the backup plan, the unshakable presence they can turn to when life gets hard. And if you don't stop to ask yourself, what do I give them that they're not giving back? You'll continue mistaking dependency for devotion. It's not wrong to give, but giving without clarity isn't generosity. It's slow self-erasure. The moment you fail to define what your presence is worth, others will define it for you, and they'll define it cheaply. That's how people end up drained, abandoned, and confused, wondering why those they carried never stayed when they stumbled. The answer is brutal. Your usefulness expired and they moved on, quietly, logically, without guilt. So here's the truth. If you can't name what others gain from you, you're already being used. And if you think that makes you noble, think again. Nobility without boundaries is exploitation waiting to happen. In this world, awareness isn't a bonus, it's armor. Know what you bring to the table, know why they want it, and know when it's time to stop giving it away. We like to believe loyalty is eternal, is that if we've loved deeply, supported selflessly, and sacrificed consistently, people will remember. They will stay. But that's the illusion. Loyalty in most cases isn't rooted in who you are, it's rooted in what you provide. People are loyal to value, not to virtue. And when that value fades, when you're no longer useful, emotionally available, entertaining, or supportive, their commitment fades too. They won't announce it. They'll just stop calling, stop showing up, slowly vanish as if they were never there. It's not always malicious, it's often unconscious. People drift away when the return on emotional investment drops. When your laughter turns to silence, when your strength turns to need, when the one who carried becomes the one needing to be carried. That's when the crowd thins out, and the ones who once called you family suddenly need space. It hurts not just because they left, but because of what it reveals. That their loyalty was never to you. It was to what you did for them. You were the emotional support beam, the provider, the constant. But the moment your strength cracked, they saw no reason to remain. And you're left grieving not just the loss of connection, but the betrayal of meaning. This is why emotional clarity is power. Because once you understand that most loyalty is rented, not owned, you stop overextending yourself to prove your worth. You stop bleeding in the hopes that someone will stay. You learn to watch behavior, not words. To ask, would they be here if I had nothing left to give? Because if the answer is no, then what you had wasn't loyalty, it was convenience. And nothing is more dangerous than confusing the two. Real loyalty is tested in absence, not presence. And most won't pass the test. Power isn't about how loud you speak. It's about how clearly you see. In a world where emotional overexposure is celebrated as vulnerability and constant availability is mistaken for kindness. True power belongs to the person who can observe without reacting, who can give without being drained and detach without becoming bitter. You don't need to control people to be powerful. You just need to control your role in their lives. And that begins with awareness. Ask yourself, what do I give that they keep coming back for? What void in them do I fill? What part of myself am I constantly offering in silence, hoping it earns respect, love, or loyalty in return? Because the truth is, you don't need to manipulate anyone. You just need to know your leverage, your time, your energy, your presence. These are currencies. And when you give them away without boundaries, you're not generous. You're bleeding. Emotion, when unfiltered, becomes your enemy in a world that rewards control. Every time you over-explain, overreact, or overgive, you hand someone else the blueprint to your mind. That's not connection. That's surrender. True strength is the ability to withhold, to pause, to listen, to calculate. It's saying no without guilt. It's walking away, not out of anger, but out of clarity. You don't have to dominate people. You just have to stop being easy to access. When your value becomes obvious to you, it becomes a non-negotiable to others. Power is quiet. It's the silence after disrespect, the calm withdrawal when someone tries to provoke you, the ability to say, I don't owe you more of me, and mean it. That's not cruelty. That's self-respect. And the moment you master that awareness, you stop reacting to the world and start shaping it. You gave everything, your time, your energy, your late nights, your quiet patience, and for a while it felt like it mattered. They thanked you, smiled, called you a real one, and maybe for a moment you believed it meant loyalty. But then came the silence, the distance, the shift. Suddenly they stopped showing up, stopped replying, moved on with no explanation, and you were left wondering, didn't they remember all I did for them? Here's the truth. No one wants to admit gratitude is not loyalty. It's a fleeting emotion, not a permanent bond. People say thank you for what serves them in the moment, but when your usefulness fades, so does their memory of your effort. That's not cruelty. It's human nature. We are wired to prioritize what benefits us, not what once helped us survive. So many generous people become bitter, not because they gave, but because they thought giving guaranteed something in return: respect, presence, protection. But the marketplace of human behavior doesn't honor kindness unless it comes with terms. And if you didn't name your worth when you gave, don't be surprised when they treat it like it was free. They didn't forget your effort. They just never saw it as something they had to protect. That's the painful part. Because while you were sacrificing, they were collecting. While you were building connection, they were cashing in on convenience. So here's your shift stop mistaking praise for permanence. Gratitude can sound sweet, but loyalty is measured in presence, not compliments. If they only show up when you're useful, they're not loyal, they're strategic. And if you want to be valued, you must tie your kindness to boundaries. You are not wrong for giving, but you are responsible for making sure it wasn't a silent transaction where only they walked away richer. We've been taught that giving more is the path to love, that being available, responsive, open, and expressive is what keeps people close. But in reality, the more accessible you are, the less valuable you become. People do not chase what's always available. They take it for granted. Power doesn't shout. It whispers. It withdraws. It creates space that others feel the need to fill. Silence is not weakness. It's a strategy. The less you reveal, the more people wonder. The less you explain, the more they speculate. And in that speculation, you become more powerful, not because you're louder, but because you're harder to reach. In human psychology, mystery creates meaning. Scarcity creates demand. The person who always answers immediately always shows up, always gives, slowly fades into the background. They are not respected. They are expected. But the one who pauses before replying, who doesn't overshare, who disappears for a while, and then returns with presence, that person commands attention. They become rare. And what is rare becomes valuable. This is not about manipulation. It's about understanding how perception works. When you're always available, your presence loses impact. But when you're selective, when you say less show up, less offer, less what you do give becomes weightier, more intentional, more respected. Strategic silence doesn't mean isolation. It means choosing when to speak and when to let the silence speak for you. It's knowing that mystery builds leverage, that people project meaning into the space you leave open, and that projection often gives you more power than any explanation ever could. So stop over-explaining. Stop over-giving. Let people earn your energy. Let them feel your absence. Because when you are hard to reach, you are harder to forget, and in that space, real power is born. We grow up believing betrayal is fueled by hatred, that someone had to despise us to turn against us. But the harsh truth is far colder. Most betrayal doesn't come from malice. It comes from shifting interest. People leave, lie, or deceive not because they hate you, but because they found something or someone more valuable in that moment. It's not emotional. It's strategic. Look back at your life. The ones who hurt you the most weren't always enemies. Often, they were people who once claimed to love you, friends who laughed with you, partners who swore they'd never walk away, family members who promised to always support you. But when your value to them changed, when you could no longer offer what they wanted, they didn't stay out of loyalty. They left out of logic. Think of Judas. He wasn't a stranger to Jesus. He was family, trusted, close, and still for 30 pieces of silver he walked away. Why? Because the reward outweighed the cost. That wasn't hatred, that was calculation. And it's a brutal reflection of human nature, where loyalty is often just a placeholder for opportunity. This truth hurts, but it's also freeing. Because once you realize betrayal is rarely personal, you stop wasting time asking, why did they do this to me? And start asking, what changed in what I offered them? You stop mourning the loss of false loyalty and start building boundaries that protect your energy. People are loyal to their needs, not your identity. And when those needs are no longer met, many won't hesitate to switch sides quietly, efficiently, and without guilt. That's not cruelty, that's survival instinct. You can't control it, but you can stop being surprised by it. And once you accept that truth, you become untouchable, not because you expect the worst, but because you no longer collapse when it happens. You rise not in bitterness, but in wisdom. There's a dangerous lie we're taught to believe, that kindness will be returned, that love will protect us, and that giving without expectation is the highest moral ground. But in the real world, naivety is not innocence, it's exposure. And the cost of that exposure is often your peace, your self-worth, and your emotional energy. If you move through life assuming good intentions without clarity, you are not being noble. You are being silently harvested. People don't always take from you with malicious intent. Often they're just surviving. They see an open door and they walk through it. They feel your silence, your patience, your emotional labor, and they take because you never asked them not to. You never set the terms. You just kept giving, hoping that being good would be enough. But here's the shift. You must stop offering yourself for free. Not because you're cruel, but because you're conscious. Every time someone leans on you, emotionally borrows your time, asks for your help, you must ask yourself, what am I getting in return? What silent contract is being written? If you don't know you're not in a relationship, you're in a transaction where only they profit. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming calculated. Not in a manipulative way, but in a way that honors your own worth. Strategic people still give, but they tie their giving to boundaries, to leverage, to purpose. They don't bleed endlessly for people who vanish when the bleeding starts. You can be kind and clear. You can love and still protect your value, but you can't afford to keep confusing self-sacrifice with strength. That's how people lose themselves giving until there's nothing left, only to realize the ones they gave to never planned to return the favor. So don't harden your heart, sharpen your mind. Because survival doesn't belong to the softest voice, it belongs to the one who knows how to speak, when to withhold, and exactly what they're worth. Most people like to believe they're above manipulation, that they're sincere, pure-hearted, not part of the games others play. But the truth is, harder to swallow, everyone is playing the game. The only difference is awareness. Some use people consciously, strategically. Others do it blindly, under the guise of friendship, love, or just being nice. But either way, transactions are happening. Affection is traded for attention. Help is traded for access. Connection is leveraged for emotional security. Denying that reality doesn't protect you. It just makes you easier to use. You've done it too. You've stayed in relationships longer than you should have because it felt safe. You've accepted help you didn't plan to return. You've leaned on someone emotionally even when they were exhausted. That's not evil, it's human. But if you can admit that you've played the game, you can also begin to see when others are playing it with you. The real danger isn't in being used. It's in not realizing it's happening. Those who are unaware get used. Those in denial get discarded. And those who refuse to play get played. If you're not actively defining the terms of your relationships, what you give, what you expect, where your lines are, someone else is defining them for you. The world isn't divided into users and saints. It's filled with people navigating survival through relationships. Some do it with clarity, others with confusion. But both are negotiating. Every smile, every favor, every check-in is part of an unspoken exchange. The people who thrive are not the most loving, they're the most lucid. So stop pretending you're not in the game. You are. The only question is, are you the one moving pieces, or are you the piece being moved? Here's one of the most uncomfortable truths people avoid: your value is not fixed. It rises and falls with time, context, perception, and need. Today, you may be irreplaceable, essential to someone's life, business, or emotional balance. But tomorrow, the game may shift. A new face appears. A better offer emerges. The praise stops. The calls slow down. And suddenly, you're no longer seen as vital. You're seen as familiar, predictable, easy to replace. It's not that you lost your worth. It's that the world recalculated what you're worth to them. And if you haven't evolved, if you've clung to the same role, the same identity, the same emotional currency, then you become obsolete in a system that feeds on novelty and advantage. That's why the powerful are always reinventing themselves. They don't rely on yesterday's usefulness. They study perception, they adapt, they refresh their image, their skill set, their leverage constantly, because they understand that influence isn't just about being good at what you do. It's about being seen as rare, necessary, and difficult to replace. In this modern world, you are a brand, whether you like it or not. And like any brand, if you're too common, too available, too unchanging, people stop paying attention. They walk past you like background noise because you've given them no reason to look again. So the wise don't wait to be forgotten. They disappear strategically. They elevate their presence by limiting it. They don't over-explain, they create curiosity. They don't shout their worth, they let scarcity speak for them. The painful truth is, you can be deeply kind, intelligent, and loyal, and still be discarded if people no longer perceive your value. The answer isn't to beg for recognition. It's to evolve so completely that your relevance never depends on the past. In the arena of life, there are two kinds of people: gladiators and merchants. The gladiator is the one who gives everything. He fights, bleeds, entertains. He shows his strength in the open, hoping the crowd cheers loud enough to keep him going. He survives through performance. But when the audience grows bored, when the spectacle fades, he is replaced, forgotten, left behind with nothing but scars and silence. Then there's the merchant. You rarely see him sweat. He never fights for attention. He never performs to be loved. Instead, he controls the supply chain. He decides what's rare, what's valuable, and who has access to it. He builds quiet empires, while the gladiators are still chasing applause. And when the market shifts, he adapts. He doesn't panic, he pivots. This is the choice most people never realize they're making. Too many live like gladiators, overgiving, over-explaining, overexposing, hoping that if they just prove their worth enough, someone will value them. But the crowd doesn't care about your heart. They care about your utility. And the moment you stop being convenient, they stop clapping. To live like a merchant is to understand this. Your value is not in what you perform, it's in what you withhold. Power is not in being everywhere, it's in being needed and hard to reach. Merchants don't beg for love. They set the price for access. They understand that scarcity creates desire, and desire creates power. So ask yourself, are you fighting for attention or controlling the terms of engagement? Are you trying to be liked or choosing to be respected? Because applause fades, but leverage endures. In the end, the gladiator survives the day, the merchant survives the decade, and the world remembers not who screamed the loudest, but who owned the silence, the system, and the outcome. Whether you acknowledge it or not, you are already in the game. Every relationship, every conversation, every connection is part of an unspoken negotiation, a game of power, value, and perception. And here's the harsh truth. If you're not playing, you're being played. If you're not defining your worth, someone else is. If you're not setting the terms, someone else is benefiting from your silence. This isn't a call to be cold, it's a call to be conscious. Because the game doesn't pause when you're tired, when you're hurt, or when you're trying to be the bigger person. It keeps moving. People will continue to extract from you whatever you offer for free, your time, your energy, your emotional labor, and they will call you good while they drain you. But when you finally need them, most will vanish without apology. The world doesn't reward innocence, it rewards awareness. Those who see the system, who understand the silent rules, who learn when to speak and when to stay silent, those are the ones who rise. Not the kindest, not the loudest, not the most talented, the sharpest. So stop asking why people used you. Start asking why you let them without setting conditions. Stop waiting for people to recognize your worth. Start making them earn your presence. Because no one values what they didn't work for. The choice is yours. Now, will you be the pawn who hopes for fairness or the player who learns to move with purpose? In a world where everyone is negotiating behind the curtain, you only have two options. Write the rules or live by someone else's. The game won't stop. But the moment you see it clearly, you stop being a victim and start becoming a strategist. In a world where everyone is negotiating value behind smiles and small talk, the greatest act of self-respect is clarity. You're not cold for setting boundaries. You're not toxic for asking what people want from you. You're awake. And in today's world, that's rare. Too many people give everything time, energy, loyalty, hoping it will be appreciated. But appreciation without action is exploitation. If someone only values you when you're useful, that's not love. That's convenience. The lesson here isn't to become emotionless, it's to become intentional. Know what you offer, know what it costs. And most importantly, know when to stop giving it away for free. If you want to be respected, you must teach people how to treat you through what you allow, what you accept, and what you walk away from. Power today isn't just about money or influence. It's about perception and self-control. It's the ability to say less, offer less, and still command presence. You don't have to chase respect. You create it by becoming rare, strategic, and emotionally disciplined. So if you've ever felt used, ignored, or undervalued, don't just get angry. Get clear. Reinvent your value. Reclaim your energy. And start treating your presence like a privilege, not a discount. Because in the end, the world may not always be fair, but you can always choose to be sharp and unbreakably aware.